Hey everybody, and today I'm going to be focusing on how to paint another genestealer close paint tutorial. For this, we're going to be starting off with a neophyte hybrid with the cult icon. And I'm going to be painting it in the hive cult of the twisted helix. But of course, you can do other paint schemes. I'm just going to paint twisted helix the way that I see it, and also some colors that'll match. For twisted helix, they're known for their green clothing, or green armor. So for the green armor, actually no, sorry about that. Yeah, for the teal armor, all we're going to do is use the new contrast paint Aldari Emerald. So, basically, all we're going to do is we're going to shake this up to make sure it's nice and good. Alright, very good. And for added control, since this is a smaller miniature, about the same size of a guardsman, we're going to use a medium layer brush. Okay, so, take some Aldari Emerald and put it on our palette. Doesn't matter where, just make sure you don't put any wet paint. Okay, so, all we're going to do is we're going to put it all over the armor where you see it. So, basically, it's all going to go right here where you see armor. So, and if you get any of this on any other parts of the miniature, don't worry, we're going to clean those up later. Also, there's some armor right here on the elbows as well.
You've been working from home, but your roommate just took up percussion as a hobby. Indeed you do. And Indeed Resume helps personalize your job search. And even helps the right job find you.
Okay, so now basically what we're going to do is since we're on the chest, we're going to highlight the back. Don't hit any part of the miniature, especially the skin, which I basically can wraith bone, but don't worry if you do, you just have to tidy it up with wraith bone. And the reason why I like Aldari Emerald is because, in terms of Twisted Helix, you would use a layer paint called Cabalite Green, and this somewhat matches a Cabalite Green, which I like. Now, this part's going to be a little tricky. You're going to have to avoid this tube right here. So, you're going to have to paint around it, and don't worry if you make a mistake, you can just fix it later. A little more paint. So, now, last part of armor we're going to do is the legs. Okay, that's all the armor base coated with the Aldari Emerald. I'm going to wash off my paintbrush real quick. Oh, before I forget, let me close my pot. Let me close my pot. Alright. Now, you don't have to do this step right now, but we're just going to do it just to get it out of the way. For this, all we're going to do is we're going to paint the skin on a neophyte hybrid. So, all we're going to do is we're going to do something very simple. We're just going to use a contrast paint again. For this, we're going to be using, where is it? We're going to use Dark Oath Flesh. But of course, for if you want to do the classic method, you would use Bugman's Glow, then Druchii Eye Violet, and then Cadian Flesh Tone, because since they're partially Tyranids, their skin has kind of a purple hue to it. Check up your contrast paints like always, so it doesn't dry real shiny. Okay, so all we're going to do, we're going to take some Dark Oath Flesh and put on the palette. So, onto the face. So, on the head, you're going to do this all over the head, this where you see skin. And it depends. Sometimes you may have a model that doesn't have the skin just on the head. Sometimes you will see between the hands, right, so like so. Or you'd see some of the arms and carapace exposed. But don't worry, wherever you see the flesh, just paint it with Dark Oath Flesh. Now, if you see any contrast paint pooling, like specifically right here on the face, don't worry. You just got to move it around a little bit. There we go. And it may seem splotchy, but don't worry. We're going to fix that in a minute. We're going to fix that as soon as it dries. Wash off the paintbrush again. So, we're going to use another contrast paint. So basically, all we're going to do is we're going to do, where's my paint? Oh, here it is. We're going to use another contrast paint, Basilicanum Gray. So, shake your paint. And a lot of people use, if you're using contrast paints, you could of course use this on the metal as well. But for this, I'm going to keep the metallics the same, and I'm going to show you this in a future video. I may show you the beaten metal effect. Shake up the paint really good. Okay. There we go. Take some Basilicanum Gray and put on the palette like so. For this, we're going to be focusing on the gloves and the weapon and the auto gun. Now, if you want to know, basically you can use this on, not on just weapons. You can also use it, where is it? The spotlight right here on the shoulder, on their shoulders. See? Just right there. Very good. And then we're going to do the same on the other side. And if you want, you can paint the gloves with the bottom black. But for this, we're going to use this also on the gloves as well. Because Basilicanum Gray is more like a black, so it actually shades and it actually goes nicely with the gloves. And be extremely careful if you have the one with the cult icon like this one. Be very careful not to hit the leather, because if you do, you can that's fine. It'll make it a little harder, but don't worry if you do hit it. Just hit it back up with paint it up with some more white or whatever you got. Oh, and before I forget, we're also going to use the Basilicanum Gray on the shoes. So basically, you're going to look right here. For this, you're going to use all the way up to here. All the way up here. Make sure not to go towards the clothing or hit the armor, but don't worry, you can just tidy up with a wraith bone and paint it again. If you're wondering why the prime is a little off, I decided to do zenithal highlights, where you take black, then you highlight with gray, and then dry brush with white. But I decided, this was from weeks ago, so I don't recommend zenithal priming because it can take up a lot of paint. Okay, that's the gray parts done. All right, so now we're going to focus on the clothing. So for this, the clothing is Incubi Darkness for the base coat, but of course you can use something very similar. For this, we're going to use Caliban Green. So all we're going to do, see if you take some Caliban Green to put on the palette on our table, and don't use this on your regular table. I'm using it on my table because it's already messy. So all we're going to do with this brush is basically, watch where you touch where you want to paint. So all we're going to do is going to paint it on the clothing. So for this, and the actual color, like for the clothing, is actually Incubi Darkness. But I'm just doing a tutorial where it works, where it kind of matches. Anywhere where you see clothing, including the pockets. When you come to this lake, always be careful. Do not hit the leather on the pin or on the gun holster. But I did it right here. But don't worry, you can just paint it a different color later. And also, last place where you're going to see clothing is going to be the arms. No more Caliban Green. Oh, and I forgot to paint this armor with Eldari Emerald, but don't worry, you can just paint over with the Caliban Green as well. Just make sure you avoid the spotlight and everything else. So, if you're wondering, this video is going to be battle ready, so basically just a shade and then we should be done. But if you want to take up the highlights, don't worry. The only thing we're going to be highlighting is the skin. May seem weird, but that's the only part we need to highlight. Alright, with that done, we're going to move on to our leather. For this, we're going to go to the gun holster. For this, we're going to use for the Mournfang Brown. And this is a pistol carrier for, like, say, like an auto pistol for this guy right here. We're going to take Mornfang Brown right here. And if you don't have Mornfang Brown, you could, of course, use Thundia Brown or any other drive tones you like. So, right here, onto the gun holster. And don't hit this leather strap, we're going to hit it with a different leather color. Oops, just a second. Okay. That's the gun holster done. All right, now for the last thing we're going to do for the leather, we're going to take a contrast paint. For this, we're going to use snake bite. We're going to use snake bite leather. So shake up the contrast paint again to make sure it doesn't dry shiny. And if you wonder why I'm using a lot of contrast paints, it's because I want to show you, like, just for Imperial Guard and the Genestealer cult, since there's a lot of minis, kind of like and also for orcs, you can use contrast paints and a little bit of the classic paints to help you speed up your process. So we just shook up our snake bite leather. So all we're gonna do is gonna apply to some leather straps, anywhere where you see leather. For this, on the auto gun, and not auto guns will have this leathery color. That will mostly be on the regular guys as well. Oh, and this little thing is just a bit of sprue I need to cut off. Sorry about that. So, anywhere for the other letter, we're going to go for the loincloth right here. And don't worry if you hit the cult symbol, don't worry, we're going to hit that with a different color in just a minute. Yeah, you don't have to use the snakebite leather. You could, of course, use wildwood or any dark brown. Alright, last thing a couple more things we're going to paint is if, like, here for the leather holster for the gun thing that I said, for the pistol, like I said earlier. And also onto the leather on the cult icon. Alright, that's the snake bite leather done. Alright, now all we're gonna do now is we're gonna start painting in the metallics while we're waiting for the rest of the paints to dry. For this, we're gonna start off with silver. For this, we're gonna take lead belcher. Open up your lead belcher, take some out of the pot, and put on. We're not gonna thin this down, but we still need to move. So all we're gonna do, play it all over the shaft. Oh wait, no, wait, hold on. The chain for the call icon. Now, we're basically just on the gun barrel. Take a little bit off, and with that, when the chain is base coated, all over the pole on the thing right here. For this, we're going to use it on the metal tube right here. And that's the metal tube done. All right, so now a couple of things. We're going to apply it right here on the flash charge, on the blast charge, and the grenade on his holster. All right, that's the silver applied. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna start the brass. So for this, if you don't have Balthazar gold, I'm gonna start off with a base coat for a base paint. We're gonna use Screaming Bell. So all we're gonna do, take some paint out of the pot and put on the table. Oh, sorry about that. My paint is dried up. Oh, and also when your paint dries up, don't worry, you can get something else. Okay, so for the armor, all we're going to use is, where's my brass score? Oh, here it is. Sorry about that. For this, we're going to be using a base coat of brass scorpion. Actually, no, wait, sorry about that. Before I forget, you can actually use metal, silver, for the base coat bronze and brass. So for this, so go back to lead belcher, and we're going to go back to where we see brass. So right here, call icon, and right here. And before I forget, because sorry about that, also there's a chain right here on the loincloth as well you need to paint with the silver. There we go. Alright, now, since we went back to do that step, we're going to let that silver dry for a second. We're going to paint the gun casing. So for this, we're going to use Rune Lord Brass. You could, of course, use silver, but I want to use Rune Lord Brass for a little bit of color differentiation. Take some Rune Lord Brass. We're going to put on the gun magazine. Again, it doesn't have to be brass. You could, of course, paint it however you like. Alright, while that's done, we're going to start highlighting the flesh. So for this, we're going to start off by using that's not the right one. We're going to start off with some Cadian flesh tone. So here we go. Take some Cadian flesh tone. We're not going to be thinning this down. Yes, we did. So right here, okay, send down some water. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. So all we're going to do is we're going to highlight the where you see it. So right here. This may be time consuming, but don't worry, really take your time and it'll be worth the effect. All right, that's the flesh highlighted. All right, so now all we're gonna do. Let me close my paint pot. Now we're gonna apply the brass. So for this, we're gonna use brass scorpion. So what we're gonna do? Take some brass scorpion. It's already thinned down, so all we're gonna do is gonna paint the cult symbol right here. All right, on the loincloth. There we go. There we go. So, and now onto the icon. For this, all over. A lot of people, you may be wondering, is this the real color of the call icon? And I'm gonna say, and yes, it is. They didn't want to have too much silver, like for a paint scheme, so it's so basically, you know, it's brass. And you don't have to, but we're also gonna paint these sides like brass. Oh, we're gonna move on to the other side as well. And if you were to ask me, they're basically one of the few armies that has more brass than silver. Alright, so for the next part of the brass, we just need to paint in a couple things. There's also another cult symbol right here on the icon. And for brass, there's a little bit of big coins right here you need to paint. Alright, that's the brass done. Alright, so all we're going to do is we're going to base coat that little light that we see on the headlight. So for this, we're going to use a simple highlight, Everland Sunset. So we're not going to thin this down because we're using very little. So all we're going to do, since all of our base coats are done, all we're going to do is going to paint in that light. See right here. There we go. Alright, now, the only thing that we need to do now is we're going to start highlighting. I know I said this is battle ready, but these are some of the parts you really want to highlight if you want to make your models look good. But we're not going to do we're not going to do highlights for this. So, I really hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I'm sorry. Yes. So, that's all you need to do. You could, of course, highlight your metallics if you want to. But of course, I'm going to let this dry. Maybe I'll do a video in the future to do this up to grade ready standard. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Bye-bye.